Okay, Chaver, here we go. We have 19 minutes. We have Hilchas Purim. We did part one last week. To review, I think maybe two quick highlights. Just we have Parsha Zachar coming up. So one of the highlights is we spoke about the fact that Parsha Zachar, it's a machlekes, whether women are indeed obligated or not. And we mentioned the tshuva of Ramesha. We mentioned the tshuva of Ramesha. That Ramesha says that in reality, if a woman cannot get to Megillah, then Ramesha says a woman should just lane it. Thank you. If a woman cannot get to Zachar, a woman should just lane it on her own. Rabbi Yehuda. A woman should just lane it on her own. Lamaisa, many in America, even though it's a very hotly contested topic, have a separate laning for women. The reason it's a hotly contested topic is because we can't just take out a Torah for no reason. And for that reason, many shuls don't do it. Lamaisa, the accepted Kabbalah here is that shuls do it, which is actually fascinating. Because if on one hand you have Ramesha Feinstein, we'll get to it 1 second. If we have Ramesha Feinstein being the one saying they don't have to go, and yet America, which is Ramesha Feinstein, sort of this happened. Interesting thing to think about what happened over there. But Lamaisa, we will have a separate laning. If a woman finds it difficult to go, what does it mean difficult? It's a question. Lamaisa, they are allowed to do one of two things we spoke about last week. Either open a chumash and say over those few psukim on their own, says Ramesha, or Purim Day, if they're going to be coming to shul anyways to hear Megillah, come a few minutes earlier and hear the laning before Megillah to be Yaitse Parshas Zachar. So again, Lamaisa will have her separate laning, but if a woman finds it difficult and she cannot, then she either reads it from a chumash or she comes to shul on Purim Day. Lamaisa, this year Purim is Sunday, which leads its own list of unique halachas. First of all, we already mentioned the fact that Tainis Esther is a Thursday, gives a little bit of a leniency. We'll remind ourselves that what is the whole purpose of Tainis Esther? It is in order to show that Hashem listens to our tefillos, as we spoke about last week. I think, and I don't think it's confirmed yet, but they're still working on it. Motzei at large is working on having a gathering of tefillah. I don't know if it's confirmed yet, but if it's not confirmed, then it won't happen. In Boulder Stadium, actually. They're looking to take over Boulder Stadium on Thursday late afternoon and to come and daven together. What could be greater? Leich Kanais. What did Esther Amalka say? Leich Kanais, Kol HaYehudim. There you go. Q. Do we always need a Valkyrie amongst us? Thank you. Go and gather and daven. That is what Tainis Esther is all about. So, Mirza Hashem, if this happens, and I'm sure you're going to have all the reasons in the world, you're late, it's tired, you have a headache, it's going to be cold, you're not really interested, work might be a good reason also, all of the above, but Lamaisa, realize the whole purpose of Tainis Esther is to daven. It is a more lenient fast that we mentioned last time. Pregnant woman, nursing woman, woman 30 days after birth, other reasons people could ask private shilas, but and that's what we mentioned, and the fact that it's a Thursday is not on camera. But Lamaisa in Yerushalayim, we'll say over what they asked Yisrael Yaakov Fisher. It doesn't really work so well here in America. But the point of the story is the Yerushalmi is a very makel woman fasting. Let's leave out the story because people get a little emotional when we sail over such stories. We'll tell the stories afterwards. But for now, the brisker is okay, different story. But either way, very good, very good. So let's move on. Purim is Motzei Shabbos. So now we get hit with a few interesting halachis. Number one for the Baal Kairei is amongst us. That's the real Baal Kairei and the aspiring Baal Kaireis. That Lamaisa, he's not aspiring. He's there. He's very there. So the shaila is the Megillah, bringing the actual Megillah with you to shul on Shabbos. Now, this is more of a nostalgic shaila because in our world, we're going to have a break. Back in the world of like Chazal and the world of perfection, what you do is you daven Ma'ariv, and then you do Megillah. You open up. Can you pass the Chilik Vav, please, Mr. Bura? Top 3 Sfarim from the left, on the top. We're about to get there right now, so I want to read you one line. But in the nostalgic world of Shulchan Aruch, what you do is you finish Ma'ariv and you go straight from Ma'ariv into Megillah. And then you go home afterwards and you move on with your day. Lemaisa, due to the difficulties with, not difficulties with children, but due to the fact that children want to come to Megillah, etc., Lemaisa, we're going to have a break, and therefore people do go home for a moment or two to get their children and come back. However, we're going to get there. Don't worry, we're getting to all the important parts. Achar kriyas Megillah ba'arvis, you say Vata Kaddish, always. If it falls on Motzei Shabbos, you say V'hi Noyam, Koidem Vata Kaddish. Says the Ramah, V'aymer V'yitin L'cha, of course. V'kairin Megillah, and then you do Havdalah. So, Navinoim. Hagav V'yitin L'cha. Yeah. Also V'inoim. Why would you say V'inoim? That's only Malacha. It's only Malacha. Only when you don't Malacha. Oh, no, let's say over that rule. This is one of those things that when you're within a month of a Yantif, you're like, are we going to say V'inoim this week? It's one rule. It's actually an easy one. It's much easier than everything else. It's not so easy because unfortunately, I'll tell you, remind me, I want to tell you something about Tachlan in a moment. But Lamaisa, V'hinayam is very simple. They're going to be work that week. That's it. If the Yontif is on a Friday, there's no work that week. It means the day off of work. You need to have a day off from work to not say Vihi Noyam. Yeah, why it's Israel? But Lamaisa, think about Tachlan. Someone told me this week that, I think he quoted the Rogachover, I didn't get to see it inside, that there are those that have a minhag, and I'm a little nervous to say this in public, to not say Tachlan the ganze month of Adar. That's what he said to me. So Lamaisa,
because my sure his birthday and yard date is that.
So the whole month. But he said to me, but if you continue in the same piece, he also says that they had a minhag to read the whole Megillah every day of Adar. So I didn't look it up inside, but what I think is for those who are holding at, every day of Adar, the laning the whole Megillah, then l'chayra, I could hear not saying Tachlan. But for the rest of us, what should I tell you? We say Avada. We spoke about last week the incredible tefillos coming on. We're going to end with that. So now Lemais Havdalah is afterwards, which it calls to mind something very important. Stam, before Havdalah, you are not allowed to eat and drink. This has nothing to do with anything else. It's nothing to do with what you normally make Kiddush on, when you normally make Kiddush, and how you normally make Kiddush. Before Havdalah, you were never allowed to eat and drink. There's one thing you could drink, which is water, but only by Havdalah, which is the question to everywhere else. Okay, let's not get involved in that. But Lamaisa. So it's Motzei Shabbos. You can't drink, you can't eat. Now, let's say someone says, I have a headache. Well, you're not fasting. It's not like Tanis Esther. No, Rabbi, it's after. No, it's not. Yeah, exactly. So Shalshidis, Lamaisa, I hope, we have to be Mamayit. Some place can say you should have a little bit of a smaller Shalshidis this week. Why? Because Motzei Shabbos, only one matuch. Because Motzei Shabbos, there's a din stam lavamak, and there's an extra din to have a suda. I want to talk a moment about that suda. I saw an incredible Motzei Shabbos. So we all know. What do we all know? Why do we have a suda Motzei Leil Purim? So we all know because the Ramah. Well, yeah, but the Ramah says that the reason is to be marbek sas. That's what he says in suda at night. So you tell the yeshiva bachar marbek sas. Everything you learn a little bit. We say and we learn. Okay, but either way, marbek sas in suda and everyone. So I saw Moshe Sternbach today, an incredible chiddush. Says Moshe Sternbach, really? If you have a Suda at night, he says it's midivrei Kabbalah, meaning it's the same level of Suda by day. He just says, if you have it at night, you also have to have another one by day. He has many rayas to this idea. He says, just like you learn Megillah at night, you have to learn Megillah by day. He says the mitzvah of Simcha applies. Yeah, this is part of the same machlokes. No, we also do, but we have in mind all the mitzvahs hayon. We have in mind all mitzvahs hayon. But no, I think you're saying you're sorry. One maybe I'm not sure what's started. But second, lamaisa at night there is a real thing to have a suda. With all the things to have a suda. Moshe Sternbach takes this very, very. Aside from Lava Malka, as a mitzvah, it's Purim. You're supposed to have a Suda. You're supposed to have a Suda Leil Purim. You have to figure out if there will be. If not, maybe we'll have to facilitate. We'll have to figure that out after the Shir. So you're going to do Havdalah afterwards. Now, another important halacha. Now, this is a halacha which I don't know if in many years gets that much airtime. But this year, I was thinking it's a little bit of an extra focus. In the halacha is as follows. We're now going to segue into the Megillah. So we already mentioned last week that, of course, all men should make a point to be part of a public Megillah laning, as is an incredible din of Roiv Hadras Lamelech, which is the reason why we lane Megillah in the first place. We mentioned how it's almost a little bit funny that the one mitzvah that's all about Persume Nisa and Roiv Am, you have everyone making 72 different Megillah lanings, but for him and his best friend, etc. Now, of course, we just will reiterate when it comes to women, of course, there's kids at home, they can't come to shul, so of course, to have a Megillah laning for them is an incredible mitzvah, so they can be yaitz to the mitzvah, etc. But now, usually, what you're supposed to wear to Megillah is usually an often forgotten halacha. And the reason is because halacha dictates you're supposed to wear big day Shabbos. You're supposed to wear big day Shabbos. So in a normal year, Rabbi, come on, it's a Tuesday night. I'm not going to put on my suit and tie. Forget the tie. I'm not even putting on the suit. It's not happening. Now, just to realize, it's Motzei Shabbos this year. So for someone to go home, now if you're putting on a costume, I have no problem. Why do I have no problem? Because they asked from Chaim Kanievsky, are you allowed to daven in a costume? You're allowed to daven in a costume? The Zion. And probably the guy who asked him the question was dressed up as I don't know, who knows what. And he said to Rav Chaim, can you wear a costume? So what did Rav Chaim say? 100%. Why are you allowed to wear a costume? You're being Oymid Lefnei HaMelech. He says on Purim, when you're Oymid Lefnei HaMelech, you're Oymid Lefnei HaMelech in your costume. If you were to go in, and what's the biggest raya? When you go to the Melech, when you go to Rav Chaim and Purim, what do you wear? You wear your costume. What do you mean? You show up on a Tuesday dressed up like a puppy, I think it'd be a little weird. Rav Chaim sees your little tail wagging and your little painted black nose. But on Purim, Lamaisa, that's what we do. So if you're going to come back wearing a costume, okay, Lamaisa Allah says big day Shabbos, but fine, that's one thing. But if one is going to, and I think people are going to make this mistake not on purpose, that's why I'm mentioning it. I think instinctively, what do? Motzei Shabbos is like, okay, let's get off the clothing and let's put on something clean. Maybe even okay, we have 7.5 minutes. Let me dive into a quick shower. I certainly understand it. But let's just realize you're coming back to Megillah, you should be addressed appropriately. That is Motzei Shabbos, that is Megillah. Another important halacha about Megillah, this is very important for the woman. It's important for the men also. Happens to be, women often run into this issue because you're showing up to Megillah laning. Megillah laning is called for, 7:30, and you show up at 7:32. Why? Because nothing in the world ever starts on time. And guess what? The Megillah laning started on time. Why? Yankees laning it. What do you think? You didn't realize? So obviously, 7:30:29, it started. That's a GX. Yeah, this is how it goes. This is how it goes. Listen, it's part of the job. This is why we pay him so much to lane. Add a zero on whatever we're going to give you. Don't worry. So, Lamaisa, you come late. What do you do now? And this is a very classical shayla. This is so classical, I would even say to mention it to your wives. Oh, it's in the book, of course. Every day I say it's in the book. I'm sitting here with the book on my screen because I don't have any physical copies yet. But I'm getting more. If anyone doesn't have one yet, I'm getting more hopefully tomorrow. You have to read it. So what do? You came late, and let's say it's the middle of the brachos. Or let's say they even started the psukim. So number one is, what's ma'akev? What you need to do is hear the Megillah. The brachos, we'll get to that in a moment. The brachos will not mess up your mitzvah. So number one is, you got to hear the Megillah. If you missed the brachos, you still have your mitzvah. Great. Number two is, you walked in and you missed the first bracha. You missed the second bracha. What do we do now? The answer is, don't miss the Megillah. Well, how could I do both? So the answer is that when it comes to Megillah, there's an incredible halacha. Is that Megillah really only need to hear is basically majority. I can't say fully majority because it's prakim and inyanim. Okay, Gival. L'maisa, you can miss parts of it. What do you mean, Rabbi? You can't miss parts. You have to hear every word. Correct. But if you miss something, you can make it up. But Rabbi, I don't have my own Megillah. Doesn't make a difference because it's the same halacha. It's a beautiful thing. A Megillah is kosher if it's missing parts of it. So if a Megillah is kosher, it's missing parts of it. Certainly, if you miss parts of it and you filled in the missing parts with a chumash, it's still kosher. Which, by the way, is a reason. Which about
only if you write it from something that's kosher, no?
That's the other way.
So if you come late.
One second, we're going to get back to it in a minute, but I just want to make mention. Is that this is the reason why, as Vada, everyone wants to have their own beautiful Megillah. And of course, when someone offers you to buy a beautiful Megillah, the answer is yes. However, However, so if you're a beautiful Balkari and you know what the word is ashpardalsa or dahlia, you know all the words, so great. But for the rest of us Joes, when we see that word, we're like ashpundi. You have no clue what the word is. So what happens when you miss a word? So you have your Kasha Megillah, Givaldik, beautiful. But then, what did you just do? You spaced out. Why did you space out? Because you spaced out. You don't need a reason to space out.
But spacing out is fine.
Oh, but then you got to make up the word. But if you don't have the Megillah in front of you, you can't make up the words. What do? You have a chumash. I'll explain what he means in a moment. You have a chumash, and you say the words. So let's go back to where we started, then we'll go back to other space out cases. So if you came late, what do? You could make the brachas yourself, and then lane the first pasuk or two and catch up and go further. You could even say the brachas between prakim. If you have a brisker bal kairei, which of course, what's he going to be doing between prakim? Coughing like making sure that all the brisker rubs, hairballs came out of his mouth. If I have no clue what I'm talking about, ayin sham, you do the cough.
No.
You do the cough? You don't do the cough? You don't do the cough? Either way, that's very good. Okay, fair, very fair, very fair. Lemaisa, between brakim, you make up the brachas. Now, there's a big fight. How are you supposed to listen to Megillah? Are you supposed to say the words with the Baal Kairei? Are you not supposed to say the words? Now, I'm not arguing with any sources, even though what I'm about to say is arguing. I'm just being practical here, and I'm coming from the world of ADHD that we all understand. If you're sitting there with your Megillah, how many prakim is Megillah? Right, so the first parak is Gishmak. You get all into the song, and it's great. By the time the first parak's over, you're like, wait, where did the Haman start? It's in the second parak. And then you get to the Hamans, and you're like, wait, oh my gosh, the first one was good. 20 at Haman, like, oh my gosh. And you're just spacing out. You're losing it. You're losing it. Yeah, I'm going to be that. I will be that kid in the back if you want, from the front, making too much noise, Baruch Hashem, keeping all the kids involved, which is, of course, what we're supposed to be doing. So, what do? So the answer is, the shail of laning along with the Megillah is only if you're laning audibly enough that you hear yourself, and then we have a problem. You hear yourself, you don't hear the Baal Kairi. But if you just say the words, mouth the words, whisper the words to say that you don't hear them, but you said them, you know what you just gained? You gained that you're going to hear every word because you're going to say it with the Baal Kairi. And then when you space out and you look down, and like 1 second, and he's there, you're going to like, okay, quickly catch up, which you could do. You miss a pasuk, you miss this, you could catch up on your own to the Baal Kairi. So those were really, well, I'm sorry? Depends who your Baal Kairi is. Depends how. And that's another, whoever wants to know, another reason why we bang by Haman is to give everyone who spaced out the last Haman an extra minute to get, oh my, wow, he's at the next Haman. Let's quickly catch ourselves. And we all know per morning, even with the coffee, the brain doesn't work so well. So, it needs a little extra time to get there. So that is how, in Motzei Shabbos, we're going to be Yotzei Megillah this year.
So if you completely space out.
Good.
You're on your phone.
Good. Good. So this is the answer. It depends on what level of space out. They asked Rav Aaron. So they asked Rav Aaron. And Rav Aaron, it's also other sources, is that, let's say, I'm going to go one level lower in space out. Your finger is on the place, but your mind is certainly not on the place. Now, if you're on your phone,
the Gemara even said, even if you doze off, but
very good. So they said Rav Aaron, this is Rav Aaron's Vard. He says if you're following along, even if you're spacing out, which in other areas of halacha doesn't work, for Megillah works, because that means you heard it, it went into your ears. Now, we all know when you're on the phone, the words don't even go into the ears sometimes. What's the raya? Ask your wife, and she'll tell you the raya. Because she asked you 4 times to take out the garbage, and you're like, yeah, for dinner I'll take chicken. What? No, that didn't work. So, therefore, phones should be checked at wherever you want to check them. I don't care if you. No, you need your phone. I understand, to take a picture of whatever and to video the Haman. I got it. But Lemaisa, when it comes to the laning, the in between Hamans will move fast so that you don't miss the Megillah. Women, when they come to Megillah, somebody asked. This is not a putting you on the spot. Because if I'm going to hug him, when you lane for a woman, what do? Who makes the bracha? Oh, so very good. And she makes it aloud. Very good. So often that's the easiest eight says, because usually sometimes someone's hired to have a Megillah for laning. So he shows up, there's a 75 women in the room, and it's always interesting. Where do the women go? Where do the men go? I don't know if you've ever been in that matzav. you're in like a shul, and like there's three men who showed up. Why? We know why those three yeshiva bachram showed up, and they're there, and they come flying into the men's section at 9:30 for the blading, and they burst into 100 women. Like, what's going on? Like, the men, you go to the other side. Like, they throw the men behind them. It's a stick of revenge on Purim. A little vahabachu. It's all good. But either way, the question is, who makes the bracha? Who makes the bracha? So the answer, what? Oh, so if you also have men who are being yaitze the mitzvah, the men make the bracha. But I don't call it a normal case. But all usually the story is the man already was yaitze and everyone was yaitze. So who makes the bracha? So there's two ways of doing it. Often what happens is, those are the two things that happen. If one's wife is there and she doesn't mind making the bracha aloud because she's just making the bracha in front of her husband and a bunch of random women, so she makes it aloud and everyone just answers amen. There's one difference in the bracha, which is important. One of the things to tell your wife, because she might show up to Megillah that no one knows what to do and the person just opened the siddur and read the bracha and messed up. It's not al mikra Megillah like we hear it. They make a bracha lishmaya. Do you listen? Now it happens to be in the siddurim, it says that. But so in our ones with the English prompts nowadays, okay, maybe the woman will understand. They open up an all Hebrew shit, they're like, I don't know, brackets. They'll say al mikra lishmaya. Doesn't work. So they say lishmaya. If a woman is not comfortable doing it, which often is the case, every woman makes the bracha to themselves. There's one more difference in a woman's lady. They don't say the bracha after the Megillah of Harav Es Rivenu. That's how women will be yaitse the Megillah. Again, they should know that if they come a moment late, the important part is to hear the Megillah. They can make up the brachas in between. We're over time. We're going to end with one final halacha. We have a Purim Suda. We didn't talk about the Purim Suda. The Purim Suda is both the easiest and most difficult halacha in the world. So I want to mention a few basic halachas just to mitigate a lot of the issues that happen. Halacha number one, Purim is a busy day. Purim is a day that you start at place A, you end at place B, you end in place C. You thought you ended in C, you really are back at A. You wake up in the bathtub, in the Yerushalmi's bathtub. Okay, listen, things happen on Purim. The problem is, Lamaisa, we're going to say a very strong statement, and then we're going to say how to get out of this. Lamaisa, if you're going to miss even one halacha, it's also to get drunk, because you're not allowed to do something that's going to cause you to do an aveira. So when everyone hears it, says, well, how am I going to make brachas? Even when I'm not drunk, I could barely make brachas, which is, I understand, is a problem, and it's something we have to work on. But the answer is very simple. The answer is wash, make hagafen, and have in mind by both your washing and your hagafen. I'm not saying this is the most lechatzchila, but this works. That your bracha should go with you. To where? Everywhere. How far? Until you end. Now, you do have to bench eventually, of course, and that's a type of thing that usually people remind each other to bench at some point, and it's an important thing to do. The level of benching when drunk is Emir Hashem. The level of benching when drunk is a little bit of a lower level. We're a little bit more mekel. So that's the Eitzah. That's what you should do. And obviously at every stop, and this gives you an excuse when you stop at the random person and you really want some food that's sitting on their table, but you don't want to ask, at every stop, you should eat something. Because you really want to keep your bracha alive, and the way to do that is to continuously eat. Happens to be, there's a halacha on Purim that if you steal, you're allowed to steal on Purim. But it's only things that one is not makbid on. Just like it's halacha that if you damage someone on Purim, then you don't have to pay. That doesn't mean you take your chair and you smash your neighbor's brand new Tesla and you say, hey, it's Purim, I'm sorry. That doesn't work that way. What it means, right, yeah, exactly. What it means is minor hazekim, which are the course of Purim, the answer is if the guy opened up his house, he has to understand that, yeah, something might get broken. If not, it shouldn't have been there, or you should not have opened up his door. But that doesn't mean you can walk into someone's house and say like, hey, look, four $300 meatballs. Hey, I could use that for my suda, pack them all up and walk out with them. And probably that's something that someone is makbid on. But to take some food, even though normally you can't do that, which maybe one has to realize that, you can't just walk in someone's house like, hey, and just eat his food because you just stole from him. But on Purim, you are allowed. So that's Eitzah number one, is to...
Anytime anyone opens their house, though?
On Purim. Only Purim. Only Purim. It's a special halacha about Purim that has zekim, minor zekim. Now you
not being gazela.
Oh, that's something else. But that's a different halacha. Yeah, if something's on the table to serve. Now, one more detail about the Suda. One more detail about the Suda is, well, first of all, Stam, my house is open. I think it's going to be posted. I think it's from 3 to 6. I think the time officially I'm going to be home. That's when I'm going to make sure to be home. I think it's 3 to 6, in between the two, we're also going to be where everyone else is going to be. I'm going to be at Bel Air, I'm going to be at Schoenfeld, and in between, I'm saying home in my house is going to be is in the afternoon hours, B'siyata Dishmaya. But the other halacha about the Suda, and we're very overtime, is it's Purim Torah. That's the only reason I go overtime. No one should think in a normal halacha share we're mamish, we're mesudar. For Purim we get to go a little bit over. Is the other halacha about the Suda is that I don't like saying this to everyone, but we'll hopefully say this appropriately. There's no halacha that you have to drink wine. You have to drink wine. The halacha is chayv nishla basumi ba'paraya. Basumi means besam, it means to smell good, which of course, I'm sure throughout our life we've understood that the point of getting drunk is not to smell bad and be the world's most evil person and punch people in the face and yell obscenities at them. And if you are that person, you're probably not sitting at this year, I hope. If you're listening online, then you should seek help. You should seek help. And I mean that in the most loving way, because if you're that guy that punches someone in the face in Purim and whatever, then you should seek help. Why should you seek help? Because one day you'll get married and you'll punch your wife in the face, and that will end in a very, very bad story. But either way, the Basumi Baparaya does not say anything about wine. You're allowed to get drunk on anything that you want. Rashi in Mesachos Megillah says Bayayin, because the nace was done with yayin. So of course there's a mila to yayin, but you're allowed to get drunk on anything. The reason why we suggest wine, and I'll just quote my Rosh Yeshiva Rai Pera, and he said this barabim, I'll never forget this, and he says, you know why? Because I don't want to come to your Levaya on Tuesday. And therefore be careful. Therefore be careful. This is Sunday, he doesn't rest up the work week. But Lamaisa, no one has ever, I don't believe it, anyone has ever died from drinking wine. I know this sounds very, very vulgar, but that's the reality, because wine, it just doesn't work, because the blood alcohol content and whatever, we'll get to Ma'ariv in 1 second, that's what we're going to conclude with. It just doesn't work. It comes out before, we're not to Ma'ariv yet. It comes out before. Why?
She won.
Very good. But Lemaisa, you're allowed to drink anything, but one should really be careful. And I don't mean this lightly. I really don't. Unfortunately, there are always horrible stories. And everyone says, I will never be that story. Well, I could almost promise you the guy in the story didn't think he would be the guy in the story. I don't think he said this year, wife, this year, I'm going to be the one in the hospital getting my stomach pumped. I don't think anyone plans that. I don't think so. And if they do, then they should certainly be seeking help. So it's not something to be making light of. And it's something to be very, very real about. That, of course, there is a mitzvah to drink, but keeping yourself alive is the first mitzvah in the Torah, of course, is v'chai b'hem, is to be alive. We'll conclude, when it comes to Ma'ariv, you're only allowed to daven if you're able to be Oimid Lifnei HaMelech. If you're not able to be Oimid Lifnei HaMelech, then what does the Gemara call you? One who davens drunk is a To'eva. Who else is a To'eva? Yeah, bingo. Yes, Mishkav Zachar, etc., etc.
But if you're drunk, but you know what you're doing.
Oh, good. Oimid Lifnei HaMelech. No. So the answer is, you are right. There is a bir halacha that's a little bit more liberal, and it's true. If you're at the point that you could daven, then you could. But if you're at the point that you're davening and you're saying Al Anisim and Yal V'yava and you're davening for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and you're dancing around the room in the middle of Shemona Esrei, L'maisa, that is not appropriate and it should be avoided. Usually the litmus test, if you're able to daven drunk, is not if you think you could daven drunk, because everyone's, me, I could drive, I could walk in a straight line. Come, John, give me your keys, I'll show you. Don't take his keys, I won't show you. And L'maisa, it's certainly something to be very, very careful about. We'll end. Yeah. What? So the answer is you should drink responsibly. And the way to drink responsibly on a year that's not Shabbos, which is this year, it's very simple. The day is very, very long. So you daven mincha, and this is always the eitzah that we've said for years, and I've yet to see anyone who does it properly have such an issue. You daven mincha the earliest time, which is about 1:30. 1:45, 2 o'clock, you wash. That's when you could drink. You have from 2 o'clock until, 2 o'clock to find a Ma'ariv. You will get there. You might miss a minyan for that. We could be makelon if you might know you miss a minyan. You're going to daven. But the answer is you drink and you get to the point that Adkan, and it's Adkan, whatever the time is, and then eventually you get to the Ma'ariv. Yeah, it's always, and yeah, the rule of thumb when someone says, just one more, the one more. In skiing, it's the last run that one gets injured on. On Purim, it's the last one that does one in as well. We'll end with the words of the Zayar. We all know, and the Mirz Hashem, there is going to be a Tzedakah Matanas Avyenim campaign, even though, yes, everyone is very mindful that there's been so much tzedakah given in this community. It's absolutely mind-boggling. You'd think it's a community of absolute gevirim when you see the numbers. But Lamaisa, we have the mitzvah Matanas Avyenim, and there will be a fundraiser to support from within the community. It's Matanas Avyenim, it's Maal Schitim, it's all together, and it's an incredible thing. And we all know in Purim, whoever sticks out your hand, you give to him, you don't ask any questions. Says the Zohar, very, very time appropriate. Says the Zohar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says the same thing. If you stick out our hands to Hashem, Hashem gives to us. Purim is a day of bakashas. Purim is a day of tefillah. From Tainis Esther, straight through Purim, daven and say Tehillim. Many have a minhag to wake up early Purim morning and daven Nate. I know it's very difficult. Nate is very early and you go to sleep very late at night. But the reason is because it's it's a day of tefillah. The koyach of tefillahs on Purim. If you need the stories, go look in all the storybooks. All the stories are there. If you don't need the stories, those are the sources. B'siyata d'shmaya, we should all be zeicha to not only have an incredible simcha-filled Purim, which we always will have, but in the schos of trying to be extra shmiras on the halachais of Purim, b'siyata d'shmaya, we should all be zeicha to HaKadosh Baruch Hu answering all our tefillahs.